Sobriety Essays number 46, and AA was there. You all heard of taking a trip, not taking a trip. Well, I was taking a trip. The difference is I was doing the trip on my 16th year of sobriety. Because I am a member of the Over the Hill gang, which means I'm retired, I'm busy trying to fulfill some of my retirement dreams in society. Each year for the last 3 years, my wife, 36 years, my grandson of 12, and I take these long trips, usually about 8 weeks on the road. Last year it was Alaska. We drove 9,325 miles in 8 weeks, which is a bit far and a bit fast. I am one of those AAers that loves to go to meetings. I usually carry a Western United States AA meeting directory. Now, my wife can be a bit narrow-minded at times. She insists that we carry the AA directory with us. On occasion, she has been known to send me to an AA meeting with the endearing words, "And don't you come back until you have a better attitude." So on the Alaska trip, which includes British Columbia, Yukon Territory, and Alberta, Canada, I was able to attend 15 AA meetings in 12 different cities. I have found that even the directory doesn't have them all. Some of the towns we stayed in were small. AA wasn't even listed in the phone directory. My greatest sources of AA meetings was the visitor information centers, and in some cases the Chamber of Commerce. In one town, Houston, British Columbia, it had 2 meetings listed, one on Wednesday and one on Saturday. Well, it was Friday and we were going to only spend the night. I thought I would call the number anyway and see if there was a meeting that wasn't listed. So I got some guy on the phone and nope, just on Saturdays, the Wednesday meeting had folded. But the man told me that once I got settled into an RV park, call him and he would come down and we would have a meeting. He did that. We had an AA meeting, just the 2 of us in the big book. This loving, caring man was much older than my 62 years and had 36 years in sobriety. I got to hear what it was like to get sober and stay sober in the wilderness of Canada. Small towns where there are only 4 or 5 guys within 100 miles, and how you learn to practice principles, not personalities, to a greater degree than here in Orange County. I found that this man's wife was dying of cancer and bedridden. He had a nurse come over to relieve his burden for a while so he could come down and spend a couple hours with me. How grateful I was, how grateful he was for the time we spent together. This year we were off on another trip. It was supposed to be an 8-week trip that got cut short. I was in a meeting in Bishop, California, Salt Lake City, Utah, Green River, Wyoming, Rapid City, South Dakota. And then I got to an unplanned meeting in Lusk, Wyoming, a meeting I needed desperately. Lusk, Wyoming is a small town with a population of about 1,500. It was the wife, the grandson, and me just cruising down the road, enjoying life, enjoying the trip. We had been on the road for 4 weeks and got to some wonderful places. Flaming Gorge, Yellowstone, Little Bighorn, Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse. But there we were, 7 miles south of Lusk, Wyoming, on a nice highway with visibility in a mile in any direction, when a young lady driving a fully loaded 18-wheel gravel truck ran a stop sign. It is in that moment that you realize there is simply no way to avoid an accident. I acted, not reacted. Swerving into the oncoming traffic lane, there were no cars coming. I was trying to get as far away from that truck as possible. The truck missed the car by 3 feet and struck our travel trailer right where the propane tanks were. I skidded for about 50 feet, came to a stop without rolling the car or the trailer. It says in the big book we will intuitively know how to handle situations that baffle us. Without really thinking, and after checking on the wife to see if they were all right, I was out the door, rushed back, and turned off the propane tank. A hose had been severed and leaking gas. Then for some reason I went back to the car and picked up a camera and videotaped everything. Some of you know the feeling of really being touched by your higher power. The police arrived, the tow vehicles arrived, and I'm down on my knees disconnecting the trailer from the car when I realized I was on my knees. And I looked up at the sky and said, God, I'm just a bit busy right now, but I want to say thank you. It is that feeling of gratitude that you sometimes get deep inside. We were taken to the hospital shortly released. While I was there, I asked the doctor if there was a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous in Lusk, Wyoming. He said there was and gave me the number of some crisis clinic. I called and then asked about AA. The clinic gave me another number to call. Nobody answered, so I left a message for a guy by the name of Dave. I identified myself as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had been in a car accident. I would be in town for several days. I left him the name of the motel and the room that I was in. The next morning at 9:30, there was a knock at the door of the motel, and there stands Dave, a live member of AA, stopping by to see how we were doing. What an overwhelming feeling to be part of this program, no matter where I am. Dave and I would have coffee together in the morning for the next 3 days. Dave and I were only 1 year apart in age and 1 year apart in sobriety age. They have only 2 meetings a week. Thursday and Thursday night, Dave took me to a meeting. The entire sober group of Alcoholics Anonymous, all 6 people. I felt immediately home and welcome. We limped home, and except for aches and pains, we were slowly recovering. I wrote a letter of thanks to Dave and the Lusk, Wyoming group for their kindness. I sent a book that I had read in early sobriety as a kind of a thank you gift to the group. The other day, I simply picked up the phone and called Dave. He was so surprised to hear from me, and I have one more close friend in Alcoholics Anonymous. This reminds me of something I discovered a long time ago in AA. No matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, as long as I stay in touch with my higher power and the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, I am never alone.